Welcome to another episode of Retrospective Gaming. In this episode, I am reviewing The Outer Worlds. Just a heads up, any gameplay footage you see with these extra bars under it, that means I'm playing on Supernova mode, which is the hardest mode. It's sort of like survival. Any other footage, that means I'm playing on hard. And there will be spoilers, you have been warned. Now, with that out the way, let's get to the review. The year is 2355. Humanity ventured far into space, able to colonize outside of Earth. Power is in the control of a small amount of huge megacorporations overseeing every little aspect of life. The world is just one giant billboard, one futuristic holographic advertisement, and humans are just there to advertise and work. You're just a worker ant feeding into the system. And this takes us to the Halcyon colony and the Hope. The Hope is a ship filled with some of the most capable, smartest people on Earth, cryogenically frozen to make the 10-year journey to Halcyon. You see, there is this lifetime employment program that people signed up for. Unfortunately, the Hope never makes it. Something has gone terribly wrong, and it's just drifting in space, abandoned. Until a scientist running from the law, in this case the law is a company called the Board, enters the Hope. His name is Phineas Welles. He's a little goofy, antisocial, and very crass, but he feels that he has what it takes to help Halcyon, and it starts with unfreezing the people on the Hope. Only problem is, he only has enough chemicals to unfreeze one person, and that person is you. Now that you're finally free, it seems like a huge weight is put onto your shoulders. You got this eccentric scientist screaming to you about the Board and how Halcyon works, and you just woke up. It's time to explore the areas within the system, seeing corporate culture front and center and everyone in between. How do the citizens feel about their fates? What are each of these corporations' goals? What about everyone else? Is there any resistance? How do each planet differ from one another? And what's really going on with this lifetime employment program? Is it really all it seems, or is it just smoke and mirrors? Or maybe something else? You land on Terra 2 and somehow find your way onto a spaceship with friends and questions that need answers. And this is how The Outer Worlds starts. If you're familiar with the two people in charge of the production, Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky, you know that there is a bit of social commentary, and it's nothing new. In Fallout, you had the pre-war corporation Voltec, and hints of bigotry. Look at Marcus in Broken Hills, for example. In Arcanum, you had bigotry and the fear of technology, clashes between ideologies. Just play a gunslinging dwarf and see how some elves react to you. And the main theme of The Outer Worlds is corporate control. Hyper-corporatism, hyper-capitalism, whatever you want to call it. The aftermath and consequences of letting a few corporations run every part of your life, and it's very apparent. Humans are looked at as nothing but an asset. Your value is based on what the higher-ups of these corporations think you can do for them. They determine your food, medicine, and value as a person. The employment program is only there to milk whatever they can get out of you while giving you a very small piece of the pie. Humans are walking advertisements, and this isn't only shown in a serious matter. The game does have a sense of humor, and the story is really funny at times. Some characters regurgitate company mottos even if they are in danger, and in one case, literally a dude with a bullet inside him was still trying to spout the Spacer's Choice company line, like a puppy hoping to please their owner. I shaked my head and chuckled at the same time, but not only that, it's about self-discovery, finding out why you were abandoned, what secrets are the powers holding on to, and more importantly, friendship. Friendship is a key thing in this game, and being a space cowboy. One of my favorite aspects about the story and the game itself is the humor, and one of my favorite things is the conversation with the mascot running the Spacer's Choice store on the Groundbreaker. I felt so bad for this man. He was dead inside. Every line he said, you could just tell he was descending deeper and deeper into misery, self-loathing. The fake half smile where you pretend that everything is okay, but deep down inside, you're already lost in the sea of self-doubt and shame, regretting the fact that you deluded yourself into thinking that everything was going to be okay. You're drowning in life. But at the same time, It's funny how you can egg this man on and even have the option to provoke him. I guess to me it's funny because it's relatable. Anyone that's worked a shitty job, especially customer service, can relate to this man. He's a god amongst mortals. He's the hero we don't deserve. He's a small part of every one of us. The Spacer's Choice, man. I love you, and I wish you the best even though you're not real. But your character spoke to me so much. You are a hero of the working class. Anyways, this game is on the shorter side, and let's be clear what type of game this is. It's a lighthearted space adventure. Space cowboy shit, not a deep critique of these type of societies and how it gets this far. Corporatism, hypercapitalism, whatever. And it's separate from the original Fallouts in this sense. It's easier on your brain. Yes, politics, class structure, comments on this type of society are there, but not in the same way OG Fallout was. And if you take a look at OG Fallout, the history of Vault-Tec, how everything came to be, the hints of a pre-Great War society in the background and what it means, you'll see that it's a commentary on society pre-war, engulfed by paranoia, militarism, corporatism, and the obstacles society faces just to rebuild. Let's be frank, if you're a recovering nihilist like me, or a straight up nihilist, we all know the answer to that. Humans suck and mainly go against what's best for everyone. But with Outer Worlds, it's a fun ride that never digs too deep into the underlying circumstances surrounding them. And it's meant to be that way. And while I had fun with it, I don't have a problem with that type of storytelling. Nothing wrong with the lighthearted adventure. The pacing is a bit too fast and some things could have been explored more. It doesn't mean you have to change the overall feel of the game. But while I did enjoy the story of these misfits taking on the evil corporations, I was expecting a bit more in terms of depth, and what I mean by that is explaining the corporations a bit more, the conflicts between them, their backgrounds, the little things that make them tick, the factions surrounding them and the little beefs with each other. Just would have fleshed that out a bit more and did something better with the pacing. If they would have put just as much attention into these things as they did of the backgrounds of your crew, then it would have been a lot better. And another thing I think they missed out on is exploring the two religions a lot more than they did. And this is something I wish they would have put in the world itself. Not just the story, but explored it a lot more with side quests, different churches, and so on. The two major religions are the Philosophists and Scientism. And they do have a presence, but I think their presence should have been greater. Run around and see more churches, see more disciples, more sane ones and more lunatic ones, riots, little civil wars going on between these two factions, little civil wars going on in these factions itself, people trying to take over, the drama, the fucking just human nature that goes on with any group, no matter how powerful or small. I just wish that the two religions would have had a bigger presence in the world. The crew is something that really drew me in. There's over 4 members you can recruit, and no, I'm not telling you the specific number, but most of them I wanted to get to know. I fell in love with their personalities, and I'm just speaking as a video game reviewer on YouTube, the ultimate armchair critic. But I can't imagine how hard it is to write a competent companion. Think about it. These are people you have to be comfortable around. You want to get to know better. You want to level them up and dress them up and fucking give them guns and tell them where to go. You want to have these people around you. You're spending more hours with these characters than you would a movie or a lot of TV shows. Even if they are non-relatable in a physical form, they still have to be competent enough to draw people in, whether you can relate to them or they are the complete opposite. And in the Outer Worlds, this is one of the strongest aspects of the game. To me, this is a game that focuses on friendship, no romance. It's your homies, not homosexuals, and thankfully I enjoyed their company. And let me just say this, Pavardi is my favorite companion. She is a fucking treasure. This is a Pavardi stand zone, and the story. She's humble, awkward, sweet, shy, and gives off a bit of that shy Southern girl stereotype. She's quirky, wholesome, and we must protect her at all costs. and Vicar Max, the cynical holy man who takes great offense when he has to translate something in French. In his own words, I don't speak fucking French. Now, I'm very happy about the amount of skill checks in the dialogue. When I was looking at the trailers, I was kind of worried. It was getting praised when I saw only 1 or 2 choices in the dialogue they showed us so far. But thankfully, Outer Worlds utilizes your skills and stats very well. Some skill checks require you being good in multiple skills instead of one, and you see them constantly. And you can even affect some combat scenarios with skill checks, so that's good. And as far as it relating to the narrative, it kept me invested. Your choices do have an effect on Halcyon, and you get a nice slideshow at the end to see how everything ends up. But this is a problem I see in a lot of role-playing games. Reactions. Now, on one hand, I'm very happy your party members are more than just some puppets that follow your every whim. You can kill any NPC in the game, and depending on who you kill, you'll get some very serious reactions throughout the story. Doubt, betrayal, disgust. I killed one of the somewhat important NPCs, and Pavardi was ashamed of the group, and she immediately ranted at me and was thinking of leaving, but I convinced her to stay. I could have also told her to fuck off, but I do wish there was a bit more depth and it was tweaked more, where depending on who you kill, even if it's one specific NPC, some characters leave without giving you a chance, unless you have like high ass speech like 90 or 100, because sometimes that's how life is. You can cross a line, and even if you're the most charismatic motherfucker on earth, you either botched it and they won't come back, or it's going to take a lot more than just a little bit of charisma to get them back. But I do like that it's there. Now, I've noticed this in some role-playing games. Unfortunately, Outer Worlds also does this thing sometimes. Well, you'll see the consequences of your actions, but not as far as I personally think that you should. During my playthroughs, I fucked over both sides of this one quest that has a major effect on the story and changes part of the ending storyboard you get. And each time, especially with the bigger side in this fight, they just tell me to fuck off. They don't like me, but that's it. I can still enter the areas. For example, I fucked over Edgewater really bad, but they still let me roam around. I shut down their chance of surviving as a city. Their power is out. Food supply is gonna go. Their city is dead, and I can still walk around it. The citizens don't attack me. No one sends anyone after me. The head of Edgewater doesn't try to interfere later on. Now, to be fair, in that specific quest, if you do fuck over Edgewater, you can talk yourself out of a conflict with the person in charge of Edgewater. So there's that. But still, even if I didn't talk my way out of it, the whole city's not trying to attack me. They just sit there with their thumbs up their asses while I'm roaming around. And even if I did talk my way out of it, if I ever came back, they should be attacking me or send mercenaries after me or something to fuck me over in the end. Like I said, the reactions are there. I don't want anyone thinking that I'm saying that there's not, but I felt that they should have went a bit farther with how the game reacts to your choices. I think companies that make role-playing games are nervous to really make you feel the weight of reactions more than they do, because they're afraid that they're going to lock players out of a major part of the story or lock them out of big areas, and they don't want the player to miss that. But if you already fucked over a town, you just already did what you could do with it. Nothing wrong with having them send mercenaries after you or something like that to really make you feel the weight of it. I mean, as I said before, it's there. There's a slideshow at the end. You will see the consequences of your actions, but I think that Tim, Leonard, and the rest of the crew could do a bit more in this aspect, and not only Obsidian, but other companies too. Now, this game is full of personality, and that's one of the best things about it. A game can be technically sound, do a lot of things right, but if there's no personality, no creativity, then it just gets boring after a while. And thankfully, the Outer Worlds has a ton of personality. The little jingles you hear from the different companies, the advertisements, the billboards, and how it blends into the utter dread of corporate culture, the comedy, the characters. It's a charming game, and it genuinely had me laughing a lot, especially the dumb character dialogue in this game. had me fucking rolling. It's hilarious. And there's enough of variety of different play skills, skill checks, different choices that you'll want to go through the story multiple times. The Outer Worlds is one of few games recently that I can go back immediately and play it again because I want to see a different side and make different choices. It's the personality and the charm that this game has that really pushes players forward. It's one of the best things about it. And even with my critiques, and yes, there are critiques I have of the game, I cannot say that I did not get any of the little jingles stuck in my head, because I did. It's not the best choice, it's Spacer's choice, and fucking rah rah rah, it's Rizzo's. Like, it gets stuck in your head. But while I did enjoy the game, the story, the characters, the factions, and I have a lot more to say about it, I'm not done. Not for a while. I like the game, but there is a trend. And unfortunately, the Outer Worlds follow this trend, and I can't stand it. There has to be a fucking guide marker everywhere. I swear to God, the whole game I had a place marker damn near every quest. You are shown where to go, and I'm not exaggerating it. I get it, not everything has to be hardcore. Some quests can be pretty straightforward. And if you know this channel, I often advocate for very little fast travel. Barely any quest markers, trainers, etc. I can be a boomer with a lot of this stuff, I understand it. But there can be a balance. Outer Worlds just holds your hand a bit too much with the fucking quest markers. Let us figure out for ourselves. Puzzles, mysteries, clues. I feel that every RPG should keep a balance between this and straightforward quests. Unfortunately, as much as I enjoyed the story, they lean too far into holding your hand. I want to consult a journal, put my maps together, put together clues. I don't need quest markers everywhere a majority of the fucking game. As of this recording, the Outer Worlds does not have any microtransactions, and I hope it stays that way, but unfortunately there is on this DLC, and this is something that I don't like at all, and it's right in front of your face. As of this recording, there are planets that you can't even go to. I believe there's 4 of them. They're just on the map, but you can't access them. At first, I kept on asking myself, what the fuck am I doing wrong? Why can't I access these areas? I did everything. But then I went online and I found out that no one can, and these are likely going to be the DLC that the developers talked about, which I don't have a problem with DLC. Although there are a lot of companies that push out DLCs that charge you out the ass for 1 hour of extra content, and I hope that Tim K and Leonard Boyarsky and the rest of Obsidian do not go this route. Putting planets on the map that players can't even access, there's no way to get to them, and it's obviously going to be DLC, telling them right from the start. I just think that's kind of stupid. Yeah, there's no microtransactions. I understand, and who knows, the DLC might be worth it. It might be big chunks of almost reminiscent of expansion packs, but I don't agree with this at all. This is a fucked up way of putting DLC in a game through on this DLC. I don't like that. It's fucking stupid. Now, the story. While it can be shallow in some places, and you've heard my critiques, I do enjoy the personality, the charm of the game, and the humor, and the overall story about friendship and you and your crew. That's what made it stuck out to me. Although there are some things I would have liked to see more explained and a little bit more in depth, of course, but I liked it. Even after 2 playthroughs, it took me a while to gather my thoughts on the direction the devs went on certain things. Now, it's very obvious that the game is streamlined a bit, which I had to think about my own preferences and the whole argument of how much streamlining is necessary. The balance between making necessary things to fix stuff that weren't possible 20, 30 years ago due to technical limitations, and not doing too much to dumb down and water down the game so much that it's extremely shallow. And with the Outer Worlds, some things are amiss for me. There are a bunch of skill checks, even some requiring 2 skills instead of 1, and that is a great thing, but the skill system itself is odd. It's bunched into groups made of 3 skills, but if a group is below 50, every skill in that group goes up with each point allocated to them. until one of them reaches 50. Then that skill only goes up if you put points into it specifically. And at this time, the level cap is 30. And after 2 playthroughs, one on hard and the second one on supernova, not a big fan of it. To be fair, it's not like once you hit the level cap, you're a master at everything. And even in my second playthrough, I finished the game at level 22. My first playthrough, I beat it at 30. I wasn't proficient in everything. The level cap being 30 is a good thing because any higher and your character can just boost a lot of categories and just becomes not only proficient in a lot of stuff, but a master of it. And it kind of defeats the purpose of having a character build that's specific at, for example, melee or long guns, handguns, or whatever, science weapons. So thankfully, the level cap being 30 is a good thing for a shorter game like this because it's on the shorter side. And as I've said before, my first character, I did reach level 30. And I looked at the character again. I was 100 in hack, persuade, and science, and was good in all my speech skills and good at long guns. So it's a weird leveling system, but to be fair, you can reach the level cap and can't be max everything, or not even a majority of things. So while I don't like that way of doing it, that could be to my own bias, it's not like once you hit the level cap, the whole point of a build becomes useless. I do like the flaw system. For example, if you take too much damage from certain creatures, you get a flaw that lowers some stats down around that type of enemy, and you can choose to accept that flaw for a perk point or not. And that's the basic of it. There is a perk system that has separate levels that you need to unlock by putting points into the previous one. It's good. Some of the perks were fucking useless, like the one that increases your walking speed. You already have one that increases your running speed. That's fine, but walking, if you're faster at running, then by default you're going to be better at walking. If you can run 10 miles 3 minutes faster than what you could do a couple months ago, of course you're going to be better at walking. You're going to be a faster walker. You can go longer. I don't know why, but as a long distance runner, that made me scratch my head and it kind of irked me a bit. And I didn't really use more than one perk relating to carrying capacity. I think there was too many perks relating to your carrying capacity. As far as the perk system goes, it's fine for the most part, but I would have liked to see more creativity. Give us a perk like Wild Wasteland from Fallout, or something related to dumb dialogue. This is probably a bad example, but it's off the top of my head. This is something that I would have put in. If you're a dumb character and you pick a perk, you have a 5% chance of unlocking a special option during conversation as a dumb character. For example, you say something dumb, and the person that you're talking to mocks you, degrades you, says something derogatory, looks down on you, whatever, insults you. If you get that chance, you can react to them mocking your intelligence by punching them in the fucking face or threatening them with your weapon, threatening to jump them, slap them, whatever, just show some force. And when that happens, it lowers the amount of skill you need for certain skill checks during these conversations. If they needed 45 and one-handed to complete that skill check, after this event that pops up, it's 30, making it easier to talk to them. That's off the top of my head, but not my best, but it's something creative and different. And I started thinking about this after I heard about a game called Disco Asylum. A lot of people have been saying great things about it. My friend loves it. What he told me about it and what I looked up, it's really cool the way they utilize some of the skills. In that game, your skill checks talk to you. Now that is cool and that is something different. And remember in Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which was developed, the head developers were Leonard Boyarsky and Jason D. Anderson. And in that game, if you picked a certain clan, Malkavian, I butchered that name, but for those that played the game, you know what I'm talking about. That fucking clan is so insane that you'll be walking around and objects talk to you. I'm not asking for anything revolutionary. I'm just asking for something more creative. It's not a knock on the Outer Worlds because the perk system's not bad. It gets the job done, just to see a little bit more creativity. And this is just something that I want to see in every game with skill checks. Just something like that. It doesn't have to be specifically that, but just something just to add more than what we're used to in the formula. There is weapon repair and customization through tinkering. That's nice. I'm fine with that, but they missed a chance to really explore the medicine system. You use an inhaler thing to inject whatever medicine you put inside of it, and that's about it. The only thing you can do is unlock more slots to put different things in there, but this could have been a chance to put another skill in the game. Alchemy, chemistry, whatever you want to call it. Would have liked to seen some sort of recipe making to add to your inhaler thing. There's so many things you could have done to add to it. I just think they missed an opportunity with that. Like many RPGs, there are different elements in the Outer Worlds, elements like N-ray, corrosion, plasma, and more. And these elements add a different layer to combat, things like area of effect, a different damage type, and so on. And you can tinker with your weapons to swap out different elements. Besides the usual suspects that you see in terms of weapon types like pistols, shotguns, heavy machine guns, and more. There's a specific classification of weapon in the Outer Worlds, and this is known as science weapons. This is the game's version of unique weapons. Things like a shrink ray and another specific science weapon that can shoot a ball of goo, and if that goo hits an enemy, they float up in the air. And there's others too, but I'm not going to spoil that much. These science weapons are unique to the game. It's like a scavenger hunt to find these weapons. You have to go on a big quest, and they're pretty fun to tinker around with. They may be seen as novelty weapons, and some of them are not the most useful weapons in the game, but they're pretty fun to fuck around with nonetheless. The game is streamlined, and there's a lot of inconvenience put there for the player. And this is not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It depends on how it's implemented, how much hand-holding there is. So there's another thing about this game that it took me a while to figure out how I felt about it. Scratching my head a lot, figuring out why and how I feel, and that's the respec system. Now, for those that don't know what respecing is, it's basically resetting your character. If you have enough bits, you can go to this machine in your ship, the Unreliable, and reset your character's skills and perks, not your attributes though. And even in supernova mode, I tested this out near the end of the game to see how many times I could respec my character. Didn't go through with it, I just wanted to see. And it was way too easy to respect. I mean, this is resetting your character, and I don't like this feature in role-playing games at all, because it kind of defeats the purpose of making specific character builds and sticking with a character. I mean, if you invest in a character for 20, 30, 40 hours, and this is what you're doing, you're a brawler, you like using science weapons, you're a dumb but fucking charming person that can persuade somehow, or you don't know how to talk to people and you just brute your way through stuff, whatever build you are. Just because you can't get past a certain skill check or an area, you can just morph your character into something different for the time being and then go back. I don't know, I just don't like that. It's a bit too much of a streamlining for me in a game that's already streamlined. That's my personal bias though. I'm not saying it's fucking bad or it's a terrible feature. That's just how I feel. I'm an advocate of a more hardcore, classic role-playing experience, CRPG experience. So I don't like it, but if you're gonna have it in there, make it more expensive. I was able to do it multiple times easy, and during the Supernova playthrough, I wasn't focused on getting a lot of bits as possible. I was replaying the game, doing some different choices, but I wasn't stacking and selling stuff, so it's not like I had a lot of money to begin with, and even I was able to respect my character like 3 times near the end. So if you're gonna have it in the game, make it extremely difficult to get. Make the player stick with their character. That's the character they invested in and build, but that's just how I feel about that whole respec thing. Supernova is Outer Worlds' version of a hardcore survival mode. You have to eat, sleep, and drink. You can only fast travel to your ship. Of course, enemies do more damage, you take more hits, so you have to rely more on ambushing and rely on finding cover a lot more than you would in the other modes. Nothing much more to say about it. It's your standard hardcore / survival mode. I do wish that they took out respecing in Supernova since it's supposed to be a harder challenge. And yeah, I'm not the best at first-person shooters, and since this is an action RPG that you shoot, of course, for me, the added challenge in Supernova, it definitely did make a difference in terms of difficulty because I'm not the best, but still, it wasn't extremely hard. It was just harder. And there's one thing I did find out. In Supernova mode, it might be best to just travel alone because the enemy, the companion AI, it's not fantastic and it's not terrible. I think it's good enough, but still, sometimes even when you have them on the right settings where they're not overly aggressive, they will just pop their heads out and not stay in cover and get themselves killed. And they are weak as fuck in Supernova mode. They pop their head out for 3 seconds and they're dead. So it might be best to just travel alone during this mode. I have no experience making games, but my guess is that the fact that Outer Worlds chose little hub worlds over one big open world did help with bugs and glitches, but they're still there, and sometimes it's not something minor you can just gloss over. It's very apparent. On Edgewater, there was this beast that was hidden in a cave, and when I was outside the cave fighting all of his buddies, this same group of monsters that are in a mob, his compadres, even though this huge fight was going on, it was just still hiding in a cave. And at first I thought that was part of its AI, that it would just wait in the cave and when you go in there to see what's up, it just ambushes you. But no, when I got inside that cave, it was stuck in motion and I could just kill it without it posing any threat. But that's not the most apparent bug. This one was fucking weird. At a couple of points in the game when I was in battle, the enemy AI just completely went off its script, its path, whatever. It just malfunctioned like a motherfucker. And this happened, I think, like 3 or 4 times throughout my second playthrough too. These 3 or 4 times when I'm fighting mobs, I'm ambushing them, hiding and firing, running back, trying not to fully engage head on. And at some point, the mob I fought just turned around, like they were drugged and covered in molasses, and just marched back to their designated spot. I tried fighting them in this state, but it wouldn't do no damage at all. No matter how many clips I put inside them, no matter how many times I hit them, special moves, nothing damaged them. They didn't even acknowledge me till they got back to the spot you found them in. That was a weird bug in the AI for sure, and it fucking creeped me out because it reminded me of this one time I was in the country. I was visiting a friend that was in the south. I'm from the East Coast, and I was driving past this cornfield, I think, and as soon as I turned to the left, I see like this family or like this line of people wearing all black in 98-degree weather, hot as fuck, just sitting there walking like zombies. They just looked dead in the eyes, staring at the floor. I don't know what the fuck was going on, but it reminded me of that. And this happened during my second playthrough too. And my second playthrough was a couple months after the game came out, I say back in January, even after a couple patches. So it could very well be there even after another patch. It's probably still there. By the way, those people that I told you about 10 seconds ago that the glitch reminded me of, they look like children of the fucking corn. That was weird. But besides that, this is one of the few times where I can say I played a game at launch, especially a game that I'm reviewing. And Obsidian's, they're known for making good games. A lot of people like their games, especially the people in circles I hang around with. But no one can ever say that Obsidian makes technically sound masterpieces, like technical wise, as far as bugs, glitches concerned. A lot of games they made were buggy, especially at launch. And Tim Kaine, Leonard Boyarsky, as much as I love their works, and especially Troika and Fallout, no one can ever say that they're known for making bug-free games too. But as far as bugs and glitches go, take this with a grain of salt because I haven't played many Obsidian games at launch. I'm just talking about from what I read, what I heard, and what I played years after the fact. To me, Outer Worlds is one of the better technical launches that Obsidian did. And this is coming from someone that's very forgiving of bugs. I'm more tolerant of it and glitches than other people, but still, I still have to call the bugs out, especially when they hit me right in the face. One of the benefits of comprising your game of a bunch of different hub worlds is the focus on tighter, more compact spaces. And if you know how to use this, you can make a game that's rich in atmosphere and detail. And thankfully, the Outer Worlds shines in that area. I loved going through the vibrant, colorful jungle and marshes of the Monarch Wilderness. When you run around this place, it looks like a pleasant acid trip. You're seeing multiple different colors like purple, orange, red. You see a moon all the way in the back that's just gleaming with color. That's one of the things that the Outer Worlds does very well, its use of color. Now, some games are very bleak, they use a whole bunch of blacks and grays, and there's nothing wrong with that, but if you're going to let the player know right from the start that this is a colorful world, then take advantage of as many colors as you possibly can and use them the right way, and thankfully, the Outer Worlds does that. I mean, the colors are just like splashing in your face, they're right there, and to me, the Monarch Wilderness is one of the best, or probably the best example of how they use the colors. As I said before, it's like the most beautiful acid trip I ever saw, because most of my acid trips in the past were fucking horrible. Now, you also have the little town of Edgewater that legit looks like a fucking theme park. You have the Spacer's Choice logo bombarding you as soon as the town's in sight. It looks like a fun little place with a Ferris wheel, the little Spacer's Choice mascot moving its little mechanical arms welcome you in, and just having fun. Looks almost like a fucking Disneyland, just not as expensive. Unfortunately, there's no funnel cakes and roller coasters, nothing like that, just slave mentalities and the dreadful nothingness of giving your life away to a corporation. And who can forget the snobby metropolitan that is Byzantium, with its tall, ritzy buildings that look like something from a backdrop to a putting on a Ritz video or a World's Fair poster from the 1930s. You know, those posters where people way back when, 100 years ago, 80 years ago, made art about what they thought the future would look like. Lots of tall, silver long buildings that look like space shuttles almost, rocket packs, very futuristic looking designs and lots of great colors. And oh yes, flying cars. They thought we'd have flying cars by now. They think the human race can accomplish something that's cute. Anyways, not to be nihilistic, but I'll show a couple of those types of posters on the screen. Look it up, World's Fair 1930, 40, 28, whatever. It looks just like that. And those are just a few examples of how the Outer Worlds does a good job in atmosphere and detail. And like I said before when I was talking about the story, the marketing, how they sell these corporations to you, it's very rich in atmosphere. I might have a couple of problems with the depthness of some aspects of the story, and they didn't go far enough, but the advertising, the holographic advertising, the posters you see on the walls, the little robots that run around singing jingles, the jingles of these corporations, their fucking logos, how they advertise everywhere, those things are spot on. But as much as the game is rich in detail and atmosphere, when it comes to level design, I think they could have done better. Now, it's not that it's horrible, it's just I wish they would have added puzzles. As I said before, more intricate puzzles. Just add them in general, because when you're running through an area and it's just a hallway with 2 doors right, 2 doors left, run up and down, talk your way out of it, sneak, and so on. There's nothing wrong with that, especially when you have a good skill system and so on. But when you keep doing that over and over again, it can get a little stale, and that's where puzzles mix it up a bit. And with the level design, it could have really used more puzzles to keep it from getting that stale feeling of running down the hallway and doing this and that. That's all, just a little nitpick, just something that I would have put in there. Games like this, not saying it has to be a puzzle adventure game, but puzzles are sorely missed in a lot of role-playing games. And some areas, I'm not going to say which one because I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a certain planet where there's this captain, he's very bravado, he's like fucking reminds me of Johnny Bravo, but he's also very inept and a fucking doofus. That planet, they could have put more stuff to put in there. It's lacking, and some areas are lacking like that when it comes to substance. But overall, atmosphere, detail, area design, the world itself is a fun game. And the sound, the voice acting is good. I like the voice actors. I like the music in the game. You'll be hearing some of my favorite tracks in the background. I have no problems there, and I'm very thankful that they decided your character is not going to speak. I think that it helps. I like games where your character does not speak at all. It almost makes it feel like I'm looking at it and I'm the one making the choices. When it's all said and done, overall, I enjoyed The Outer Worlds. I like my time with it. But here's the thing. The last game that Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky co-directed together was a game called Arcanum of Steamworks and Magic Obscura, and that was 20 years ago. Deep down inside, I was expecting something that didn't play it as safe as The Outer Worlds did. Now, to be fair, just because you play it safe in some regards, or a game that plays it safe overall when it comes to most things, that doesn't mean that the game is bad. The Outer Worlds is not a bad game at all. I enjoyed it a lot. But I want to see what they can do when they throw the whole kitchen sink in with it. The Kitchen Sink Project. That's a quote that Tim Kaine said when he was referring to the development of Arcanum. That's a project where all your creative juices are flowing. You're not held back by anything, or in terms of being held back, it's very little. You can use whatever ideas you want. You can throw anything against the wall because you're not restricted. And with Arcanum, that was the case because they weren't beholden to publishers at that time, and they owned a company. Tim and Leonard were two of the three co-founders of Troika. I really want to see what they can do when all their creative juices are flowing. And to be fair, this is speculation. I'm assuming that they were held back by selling a certain amount of units to be successful sales quotas, and the publisher Private Division, which I believe it's owned by Take-Two, or a big company like that. I think it's Take-Two, so they definitely had some sway in it. The Outer Worlds proves that Tim Kaine, Leonard Boyarsky, and the rest of Obsidian can make an enjoyable, good product. And not only that, they can make a commercial one. But I don't care about sales. Doesn't matter to me whether a company plays it safe or not. We all know now that Tim and Leonard, they still got it. They can put out a quality product. But I want to see that kitchen sink product again. These two people, Tim and Leonard, you're two of the three people responsible for founding Troika Games in 1998. I believe it was 98. This developer put out Arcanum, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, and Temple of Elemental Evil. I want to see more risk-taking with the next product that they put out. They proved that they can put a good product out. Now let's see you take some risk. Do some risky things with skills like Disco Asylum did. Do something crazy, unique, and different with the setting like Arcanum did. In Arcanum, the society was used to magic, and it experienced an industrial revolution. And there's a lot more underlying issues with that, but just saying in basic terms, it's a society dealing with the economic, social issues that come with something so drastic like a society that's so used to magic and medieval stuff, now dealing with guns, traps, and things like that an industrial revolution brings. And just do something with a cool, fucking flat-out different atmosphere like Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines did. I want to see something like mixed in with all of that. Not the settings and specific ideas, but how they just had the same mindset when they were developing games for Troika. I want to see one last hurrah from these two developers where they can go no holds barred, they can do whatever they want, no holding back from Private Division, no holding back about trying to sell 10 million, 4 million copies or whatever. I want to see it. These two are veterans. They deserve that chance again. Now, as I said before, a lot of this is speculation. Maybe The Outer Worlds was conclusion of all their creative juices, no holds back, flowing at once, but I don't believe that. I have some problems with it, and they did play it a bit too safe for someone like me, but it's a good product and you should definitely try it out if you're a fan of action RPGs. Now that I'm at the end of the review, here's something to end the video on, a note about DRM. I fucking despise DRM, it's given me so many problems throughout the years, and unfortunately, as of this recording, on PC, The Outer Worlds is still an exclusive, a timed exclusive to the Epic Games Store. I think it stops being timed at the end of this year. I don't like that. I hate DRM. I played it on PS4 because I didn't want to support that, and my PC can't handle it. And I didn't feel like waiting because This is one of the few times that I ever bought a game on launch, one of the few times, so I wasn't gonna wait. So I got it on PS4. Didn't want to get it on Epic Games Store anyway, even if my computer could handle it. And I've been trying to put my money where my mouth is more and more throughout the years and support GOG, good old games, a lot more. I like Steam, it's a decent platform, it's not my favorite, GOG is now, but I still use it from time to time, and if there's a good sale on a game that I really want and the deal is too good to be true, sometimes I bite the bullet. We all fall victims to that, but I've been trying to make the majority of my purchases DRM free. That's my goal, and I've been doing that. GOG is my main platform, and I try to look for other places that do DRM free stuff too. So for anyone that's pissed off about timed exclusives and Epic Games, or they don't like Steam, or just DRM is not your cup of tea, try to support DRM free more and more. Wait for sales, wait till a game goes on GOG, just do whatever you can. That's the best thing. As for me, I'm gonna buy from GOG a lot more because I like the store, I like the platform a lot more, so that's the little part that I'm doing. I'm not saying I'm gonna change the world or my thoughts are gonna change anything, but in my ideal future, DRM is a thing of the past. And with that being said, thank you for watching. I appreciate you sticking around, even though it takes me a while to come out with videos sometimes. Whether you're a new subscriber or a long-term one, thank you. Sorry that this took so long to come out. I'll try to be more frequent with my reviews in the future. I hope I can, and that's what I'm aiming to do. Leave a comment if you want to. You know how to get into contact with me. Have a great day.